All right, the NFL season has wrapped up. We are officially into the off season. So that means it's time. It's mock draft season. Let's start looking forward to April. Who are going to be the newest members of our favorite football teams? Now, a lot of things are going to change. Free agency, cuts, all sorts of stuff, trades even. But as we stand right now, all 32 teams own a first round pick. So we're going to go through. I'm going to give you my first mock draft of 2025. Let's hop on into it. Okay, first up, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock, and this is a really tough one. Tennessee has a lot of needs. Worst team in football this season, second year under head coach Brian Callahan, but they do have a new GM in the building, so I'm not quite sure what kind of assurances this team has gotten. They desperately need a quarterback. They're pretty good on the defensive side, but there have been some interesting comments made talking about how they aren't going to pass up a generational talent. We got a couple of guys I think that could be generational on the defensive side of the ball. We see that both edge and corner are needs. We look at the top of the board. We see a cornerback and a pass rusher, but the NFL stands for not for long. So barring any moves in free agency, I think the Titans have to bite the bullet, go with a quarterback. And of the two quarterbacks, I much prefer Cam Ward out of Miami. A lot of college football experience, still relatively young when you see some of these guys, 25, 24 coming out. Cam Ward, lots of experience, not super old, but has those starts under his belt that a lot of teams value. I just think the Titans' hand has been kind of forced, and they got to go with the quarterback. If they don't win games this year, Brian Callahan is out. He's got to take the quarterback, and Cam Ward is the most NFL ready to start picking up dubs. Okay, Cleveland, a little bit easier. Now, it could be a little negligent by the Browns to not draft a young quarterback here. The Deshaun Watson trade will go down as maybe the worst trade in NFL history, but I think they're going to make some maneuvers, potentially add a quarterback in free agency, a la Kirk Cousins, I'm thinking. And Myles Garrett has demanded a trade. You've pretty much wasted the prime of his career. You're going to get a lot of draft picks for him. Go ahead and ship him out of town and replace him with the new generational pass rusher. I love Abdul Carter out of Penn State. I think the Browns just trade Myles Garrett away, get a couple of first-round picks, and then snag up Abdul Carter. You reset the clock as you try and navigate through that disastrous Deshaun Watson content. So Browns here at 2, taking Abdul Carter. Okay, the Giants now on the clock at 3, and potentially they thought they could have screwed themselves by sliding back to 3, but not the worst case scenario here. There's still a quarterback on the board, and I think you have to take a quarterback if you're the Giants. This entire front office, head coaching group got a year extension. They probably should have been fired after this year. It's just been a disaster. They get out of the Daniel Jones trade. You see Saquon Barkley go win the Super Bowl, dominate the NFL on your division rivals. You cannot win in this league without a quarterback. You do have a good young wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. I would be tempted to potentially add Travis Hunter, but I think they're up against the wall. It's a bad quarterback class, not highly rated, but the most upside quarterback probably is Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. He might take a little bit of time, but if you get some flashes, you might get an extension if you are this group. Brian Daboll, I do still believe in, is a good head coach, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Let's get some competent quarterback play. Giants go ahead and taking Shedeur Sanders at 3. Now our top 2 quarterbacks off the board. Okay, Patriots here at 4. I think there are 3 interesting picks here. We look at our top 3. We have Travis Hunter, offense and defensive potential player. Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona, big jump ball wide receiver threat. Help out your young quarterback. Or Mason Graham, who I think is an elite defensive interior lineman. Willie McGinnis 2.0, some guys have said, for those Patriot fans. But I would much rather have the help on the offensive side of the ball. Now, they may go out and sign T. Higgins, but I think Travis Hunter fills a lot of needs. He can play offense. He can play defense. I would just go with the best player here if you're New England. This team is not very good. Go ahead, take Travis Hunter. You can sprinkle in some offensive plays for him, have him play corner. You pair him with Christian Gonzalez. It's a pretty solid secondary group now. We can work on defensive linemen. It is a super deep defensive lineman draft, so I like Travis Hunter to New England here at 4. Okay, Jaguars on the clock after the back-to-back Colorado boys get drafted. It's maybe not as sexy, but man, I love Mason Graham out of Michigan, one of the most dominant interior defensive linemen you are going to see. Absolute stud for the Wolverines. Now, obviously, Michigan had a bad season this year. There were a lot of things going on, but it wasn't really the defense. That defense was still pretty stout, led by Mason Graham. Had the monster play 2 years ago in the Rose Bowl to lock up that win against Alabama in overtime. If you're the Jaguars, keep building in the trenches. They need offensive linemen. I don't love any of the linemen here. Go get Mason Graham. I feel like he's a home run interior guy, one of the best we'll have seen. True game record, not the same build as Aaron Donald, but a la Aaron Donald game record type player. I love this pick here. If you're the Jags, sit there at 5. Don't need to sweat it out. I love this pick. Okay, the Raiders here at 6, another team that I think might be adding a quarterback in free agency. None of the quarterbacks fall to them. What do you do here? I think you just go take the best true wide receiver on the board. I could see a potential Ashton Jeanty pick right here, but I don't necessarily love that. Just go ahead and take Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona. Big body receiver, 50-50 ball extravaganza. I mean, it's more like 70-30 when you toss it up to him. Not the best route runner in the world, but big, physical, fast wide receiver. Great hands, great ball skills. And, whoever the quarterback is, you want to have a friendly receiver with them. You pair him with Brock Bowers. You pair him with Jacoby Myers, who had a really underrated season last year. And you got some real weapons, a good offensive line in Vegas as well. Just got to figure out that quarterback position. And there's really something cooking on that offensive side of the ball with Chip Kelly, with Pete Carroll at the helm. I like this pick for Vegas if the quarterbacks don't fall to them at 6. Okay, the Jets here at 7. Need a quarterback now, moving on from Aaron Rodgers. First-year head coach Aaron Glenn just came from Detroit. He knows about the importance of building up the lines, defensive, offensive, but in his heart, he is a DB. That's where I think the Jets are going to go, potentially losing some guys in free agency in that secondary. Let's go ahead and draft the best corner, I think, true corner on the board. Will Johnson out of Michigan. Now, didn't have the best season this year. Again, like I said, the tape was much better 2 years ago when they won the national championship, but I think Will Johnson's an elite tier corner. We still have Sauce Gardner on the team. Looks like Reed's going to be out in free agency. Feel like teams are going to pay a little bit too much money for him. But if you're the Jets, just revamp, reload. Let's work on that defense because we'll figure out the offense. We're going to get a quarterback. We'll figure these things out. Let's keep building up that defense. Defense can win games. Defense can win championships, as we just saw. And I trust Aaron Glenn to go ahead and get him the best DB on the board. Okay, Panthers on the board here at 8. We need defense in Carolina. I mean, offense looked pretty decent towards the second half of the year. Bryce Young looks like he could potentially be a guy in this league. Adam Thielen's still up there, but he was a savvy veteran. Xavier Leggett had a nice finish to the season. Now, they do need a tight end because Jatavion Sanders, maybe they'll give him another year. He didn't look great last year, but this defense was horrible. They need defensive line. They need secondary help. I could see a James Pearce here out of Tennessee if you want to go pass rusher here. But I like just securing up that back end. Malaki Starks, not a great safety draft, especially in the first round. I like Malaki Starks, best safety, big-time playmaker at Georgia, great ball skills, fantastic tackler. He can really, really help secure that back end that was pretty much a sieve for Carolina. I like this pick. Let's just go defense, defense, defense. Don't hate the James Pearce pick or the Mike Green, whoever they have higher if they want to go pass rush here, but I just value an elite tier safety, especially out of a unit like Georgia. Okay, the Saints are an interesting one here. They got to shed a lot of salary cap. They are in salary cap hell, and there's a lot of positional needs. Wide receiver, tight end, D-line here. I could see them going with Luther Burden III, pairing somebody. If we don't know what Chris Olave is going to look like, Derek Carr's giving him like 1,000 concussions. He could have scrambled egg for brains. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, we don't know what he's like. He's a free agent, I think. He was their kind of big one home run guy. Taysom Hill is done. He's getting cut, it sounds like. But we need defense. We need to bolster up this unit. Kellen Moore, coming over from Philadelphia, knows the importance of a good defense. I think he'll be able to potentially maneuver and work with some lower tier wide receivers. And I don't necessarily love Luther Burden. Feels like a one-trick pony. Give me James Pearce out of Tennessee. Big, versatile pass rusher. Now, the production wasn't crazy. Much better start to the year than the finish of the year. But that was really kind of the knock on all these pass rushers. Except for Mike Green. Not a lot of production out of them, but a lot of impact. You know, the teams were scheming against them, working away from them. They felt some heat from them, but not a huge statistical year. But I think he's a really, really great prospect for the Saints. Okay, number 10, how about the Bears? The Bears. Okay, Ben Johnson coming over from divisional rival Detroit. And what does Detroit do? They run the football. Ashton Jeanty, best running back on the board. PFF has him at 5 on the big board. Is it too tasty to pass up? No, they're going to pass this up. They're going offensive lineman. Will Campbell out of LSU, best lineman on the draft. Potentially could move into guard, right tackle, could swing over from left, play right tackle. I think this is a Penei Sewell type guy. We saw the impact Sewell had in that Lions offense. Ben Johnson loved moving him around, getting him on the outside, using him in the screen blocking. I think this is a perfect setup for what he's going to want to build in Chicago with Caleb Williams. Protect your quarterback at all costs. Go ahead, give me Will Campbell, best available offensive lineman in the draft. Okay, San Francisco on the clock now here at 11. Disappointing season, but next year, a fantastic schedule for them. But this team is starting to get old. Guys are starting to get expensive. They're going to have to make some roster decisions, including paying Brock Purdy potentially. But I think we're about to see a run on offensive tackles. And give me the best, pure, true, ready to go left tackle in this draft. Kelvin Banks Jr. out of the University of Texas. Did pick up an injury towards the end of the season, but played in that game against Ohio State, was pretty good overall, even with the bad knee. I just think this is your replacement for Trent Williams. Let's solidify those edges out there. Now, Trent Williams is probably going to be back, but he is like 40 years old, coming off an injury that he was trying to come back from. So let's just move on from that. Let's secure the future. Give me Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas to head to the San Francisco 49ers. Okay, and how about them Cowboys here on the clock at number 12? Jerry's not going to be able to help himself. Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach. Defense sucks. Offense kind of sucked without Dak. He's going to do it. He's got to do it. He just saw the Derrick Henry flack he got for not signing a running back. Saw Saquon dominate, win the Super Bowl. Best running back on the board, a la Zeke Elliott, he feels. He's going to go ahead and take Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State, thinking he's going to hit the home run. Now, I like Jeanty a lot. Interesting kind of running style, stand up out of the backfield, smaller guy. True every down back. People are going to question how good he is. He's got a lot of miles on the tires, and he played at a lower level competition. But if you watch his Penn State tape, Penn State did everything in the world to stop Jeanty, and he still had a pretty solid game. And there was no quarterback help, no wide receiver help. In Dallas, you're going to get that. You still have Dak, you still have CD. I think this is not the worst pick in the world, but it's a very Jerry Jones, flashy, news headline grabbing pick. So give me Jeanty to the Cowboys at 12. Okay, Dolphins here, kind of a weird... And we're kind of in a weird mode for the Dolphins. Everybody's hanging around. Tua's going to be back. Tua's back at quarterback. He got injured again with another concussion, but he had a decent finish to the year. Tyreek Hill says he's leaving the team. Defense is kind of all over the place. Mike McDaniel might be overwhelmed as the head coach in Miami, but let's just secure up this offensive line. Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, left tackle, did get injured in October. He might miss the start of the season there, but this is our run on tackles. Let's just get a good offensive lineman, protect our quarterback who's already fragile and made of glass. We got to build up the trenches in Miami. Let's go with Simmons out of Ohio State. Very versatile guy, big, good pass protector. I like this pick overall, but kind of a weird spot for the Dolphins as an organization, what their future is going to hold. Okay, Indianapolis at 14. Look at what their number one need is, tight end. It feels like the Colts haven't had a good tight end since, I don't know, man. Peyton Manning was at quarterback. It's just been forever. And we have the number one tight end still on the board. The versatile, the Swiss Army knife. Try Taysom Hill, but actually really good at football and not kind of a gimmick, Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I love this guy. He can play quarterback. He can play running back. He can throw the football. He can run the football. big physical blocker, great in the run game. We know how good Indy's run game has been. They don't have the best quarterback in the world, but he's a huge target for him, 6'5" out there. Maybe going to help if Anthony Richardson still is in at quarterback. Tyler Warren, so versatile. I am getting giddy with excitement, potentially seeing Warren in a Shane Steichen offense. We're going to utilize the tight end in Indy this year, and he's going to be a big pickup for them. Okay, Falcons on the clock here. The Michael Penix era is here, maybe sooner than fans would have thought. We do have Drake London at wide receiver. The Kyle Pitts experiment might be over. We do have Bijan Robinson. This is a 50-50 pick for me here with the Falcons. Could they go pass rush? Could they go wide receiver? We're going to have to see what free agency brings to them. I think the Falcons just keep doing what they do. I think they go wide receiver here. I think they go Luther Bird. You need to support your young rookie. I shouldn't say rookie. Your young second-year quarterbacks. Now, basically a rookie, only had 2 starts last year. So give me Luther Burden out of Missouri. Big guy, stretch the field, make those boxes not be so stacked for Bijan going out there. Make teams worry about the deep ball. And guess what? Michael Penix throws a beautiful deep ball. He's one of the best passers, pure form-wise, that came out of the draft 2 years ago. A little bit older, maybe a little bit of injury concerns, but I think to pair him up with Drake London, who's a great route runner and fantastic hands, and you have Bijan Robinson still, who can just chunk out $150 a game if he so desires. I would like the Falcons to address the defense in free agency, but with a defensive head coach, that's a position that you can attack later in the draft. Find those better value guys. Don't necessarily have to spend your high-end picks on them. Let's go ahead and get a really top-tier receiver. Okay, Arizona at 16. This team is kind of all over the place. I thought the offensive line really was overall okay last year. They've been working, shuffling pieces around. They were a disaster when Gannon took over this team a few years ago. Kyler Murray, I think, is the issue on offense at quarterback. We have a nice backfield going with Benson and James Conner. We drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. You have one of the best tight ends in the league in Trey McBride. I would like potentially another weapon on the outside for them. Maybe figure out what we're going to do at quarterback. But let's just keep bolstering up this defense. Let's take the most productive pass rusher out of this draft class. Mike Green out of Marshall dominated the Senior Bowl, had a monster season this year. I think he had 16 sacks this year. You want to see a guy who's at a smaller school absolutely dominate his competition, and that's what Mike Green did, and dominated those up-tier position players at the Senior Bowl. Like, poor man Josh Conerly Jr. out of Oregon got killed by Mike Green. That video is going to live forever. Even if Mike Green busts, he's going to be forever solidified for that video. So let's get the defense rocking and rolling in Arizona. Definitely been the weaker unit of the two, but they have been getting better. Gannon has done a lot with a little, it feels like, from a talent standpoint. And what did Philly do great when he was there? What do they still do great? They rush the passer. Let's get us some real pass rushers in Arizona. Okay, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock. Let's get my man some help here. Offense is really good. They rolled off a bunch of wins, but still wasn't enough to make the playoffs at the end of the season. This defense and special teams unit were so bad. For the love of God, let's get some help on this defense. They got rid of Sweet Lou Adarumo. This team really was just awful against the run. Couldn't stop anybody. Did a decent job getting after quarterbacks, Got Hendrickson, who I think led the league in sacks, or he was in the top 3. He was excellent out there, but the rest of the team really didn't do much. Let's get a guy who's flown up the boards a little bit. A big interior guy, can rush the passer, and really is strong against the run. Let's get Walter Nolen out of Ole Miss. I really liked what I saw from him. He was at A&M prior to this year, and A&M's run defense fell off a cliff after he transferred out of there. We're still with a lot of guys. I think you put a big rock in the middle of that defense, make life difficult for teams, stop the run so teams have to punt the ball and give it back to the Joe Burrow in this offense. Let's go defense here for the Bengals, even with T. Higgins potentially departing. Offensive line isn't the worst move here either, but don't love anybody here at guard for them. Potentially Membou out of Missouri probably projects more as a guard than a tackle. Let's go Walter Nolen, though, here for the Bengals. Okay, Seattle Seahawks on the clock. Interesting team. Had a good season overall under first-year head coach Mike Macdonald over there, but the offensive line was really bad in Seattle, but the defense wasn't great either. They really didn't do much at rushing the passer. I think as a defensive head coach, he's going to lean defense here. I know that Baltimore, his former Ravens defensive coordinator, got a lot of connections to these kind of big, nasty pass rushers. They like to get after the quarterback on defense. Why not go Mykel Williams out of Georgia? I think the defense is going to be the focus for Seattle here. They're going to try and piece together this offense. They like their quarterback. They like their running back. They like their receivers. They want the defense to play. They want to play a lot of rock fights, man. They want to play 17-14, 17-13. They're okay with playing all those ugly kind of games. So improve that defense in Seattle. Give me Mykel Williams, a really freaky athlete out of Georgia. Maybe not the production we would have liked to see this season, but we saw what all those Georgia defensive linemen just did in the Super Bowl. Let's keep rolling. I think they're going to be Kirby Smart just produces NFL studs on the defensive line. Okay, looking at the board here for Tampa Bay, kind of an interesting spot for them. I think this is just going to be too good of a prospect to pass up. It's also an area of major need. Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. This guy would easily be a top 10 pick if he didn't suffer an injury. He's probably going to be out till late October, early November. I just think it's way too much value here. The Buccaneers are a good team. It doesn't feel like they're quite as a Super Bowl caliber team, but the NFC South isn't the best. They keep winning that division. I don't love, potentially Shamar Stewart out of A&M if you want to really address that edge rush, go after that D-line. But I think they're okay with where they are. They really need secondary help. Their secondary is just so bad for consecutive years now in Tampa Bay. Let's go Benjamin Morrison, an elite potential talent guy. Come in a little bit later this season. Reinforcements, which is what you're going to need. I think he's going to be a great NFL defensive back and a huge upgrade for this Buccaneers secondary. Okay, Denver, let's get more weapons for our young quarterback. We made the playoffs, I think, better than most people would have expected under year one with Bo Nix. Offense highly efficient, highly effective. Let's just get a great route runner, never the number one at Ohio State, but he's your all-time leading receiver at a school that just puts out studs into this league. Let's get Emeka Egbuka. I think this is really going to help out our young quarterback. Troy Franklin really kind of didn't do too much last year. You still have Cortland Sutton. Let's pair him up. The defense, they'll get the defense figured out. It was a great unit. Had defensive player of the year in the secondary. Were great against the run. Didn't give up a lot of points. So let's get this offense more weapons. I think Emeka Egbuka is just a great wide receiver to take. Maybe not going to be an elite tier number one, but he could be he's going to be like a Devontae Smith or a T. Higgins, like a 1B kind of guy. Maybe not the high-end number one, but just an elite number two that is going to kill other teams' second-best defensive backs. Okay, the Steelers here at 21, they need a quarterback. I think that's going to be all free agency. Could go defense here. Out of Texas, you could go with defensive back out of Texas, Jahdae Barron, but I think they go with another Texas player. We're going to go with Matthew Golden at wide receiver. Who the hell knows what's going on with George Pickens? Ticking time bomb, but they really need some other weapons out there. Potentially going to sign a running back. Maybe they bring back Najee Harris. They do still have Warren, but please get another wide receiver on this team. Pittsburgh's good at getting wide receivers. Matthew Golden had a fantastic year at Texas, really stood out as the better of the two receivers and was great when Isaiah Bond went down in those big games in the playoffs. Just a money receiver, gets open, gets the ball to him, makes catches. Big upgrade for the Steelers here on the outside. Okay, Chargers need a lot of offensive help. We need a running back. We need a receiver. We need tight ends. We need weapons for our guy, Justin Herbert. Probably going to need a running back. Now, Omarion Hampton, very interesting out of North Carolina. I think he's a stud at running back, but this is a super deep running back class. I think you can get them in the later rounds here that are guys that are going to be impact starters in this league. But what I don't think you're going to be able to find potentially is a guy that perfectly fits your scheme. We're going over to tight end. We're going over to a Michigan man himself, Colston Loveland, out of the University of Michigan. Obviously has those big Harbaugh ties, fits perfectly in this offense, big body run blocker, and he can catch the football. He can catch the football, huge, big body, tight end, I should say, but receiver, pass catcher, however you want to phrase it. I think this is a great fit for the Chargers. And we saw Will Dissly have a really good season, but he was inconsistent. What's the ceiling for Will Dissly? I love Loveland here for the Chargers at 22. Okay, the Green Bay Packers on the clock here at 23. No great receivers. This team really needs a receiver. I think they're probably going to be pretty pissed if Matthew Golden's gone. If you look at the other receivers, potentially they go with, Alec Iomanor out of Stanford. I'm going to get that right. I'm working on that one. Jack Beach, Xavier Restrepo. No, we're not going to go there if we're Green Bay. We're just going to stick to it. They need some pass rushers. This defense was good, gave up a lot of yards, forced a lot of turnovers. I think this is going to be a home run pick. You just got a home run last year. His former teammate at Texas A&M in Edgerrin Cooper. Gonna kill me to do it, but the Packers gonna take another Aggie out there. Give me Shamar Stewart, a guy who's flying up the draft boards now. He's a little bit undersized, a little bit small, it feels like, but for a defensive end, lots of talent, lots of huge upside. Maybe not the best tape in the world, but he's dominating at the Senior Bowl, was the talk of the town in practice that week. Shamar Stewart, they trust their Aggies, it looks like, in Green Bay, to the Packers. Okay, my Vikings here at 24. Interesting pick. Free agency is going to have a big impact on what we do here. We need a running back, we need a guard, we need a defensive lineman, we need a cornerback. I think we're going to go with another Michigan man like we did last year. Give me Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, one of the best big interior linemen in this draft class. Walter Nolen would have been another awesome guy to have slide here, but I'm very happy if the Vikings can get Grant. I think they go defensive line over the guard plays. I think that's where we spend our free agency money. Membou's an interesting guy to look at here, or potentially Booker out of Alabama, but it feels like be a little bit high for him. Let's just go Grant. Safe play, a guy who knows how to play a great defensive interior, played with Mason Graham, going to fit really well in this multiple defensive front Brian Flores runs. So Vikings can get Kenneth Grant. I'm going to be a very happy man on draft day. Okay, Houston at 25. Could use a wide receiver. Stephon Diggs is a free agent coming off of an ACL. Who knows what we're going to do there. Tank Dell, his leg's gone. He's probably out for most of, if not all of next season. So you really just got Nico Collins, but by God, the Texans offensive line was so bad last year. Need a center, need a guard. My man Armand Membou out of Missouri was a tackle this year. Feels like he projects more as a guard. I could see them going with Membou. You just need to do anything on this offensive line. Please try and protect CJ Stroud. You had Joe Mixon, had a really good year when they could run the football, but this pass protection was some of the worst we're going to see in the NFL. So offensive lineman, and weapons when you have a young quarterback who looks like he's going to be a stud. D'Amico Ryans in the defense kind of carried this team the second half of the year. So really like this pick if you are a Texans fan. Okay, Rams on the clock here. Kind of going to be a weird offseason. They're going to cut Cooper Kupp, it sounds like, potentially trade Matthew Stafford. I don't know what's going on here, but this just feels like a Sean McVay guy. Smart, versatile offensive lineman. Give me Grey Zabel, your practice player of the week at the Senior Bowl, was really stood out, and that's what you want to see. A guy who played at a smaller school, now North Dakota State, is the best of the smaller schools, but really had a great week against high-level competition. Played a tackle, played a guard. I just like this for this LA offensive line. Upgrade it. They're really young and good on the defense. I love their defensive line picks. They could use a tight end, but I'm not loving any of these tight ends left here. So second rounder later for the Rams here. Let's just go with a solid offensive lineman that is going to find a way to start in this league. Okay, Ravens here at 27. Need potentially a wide receiver to go with Zay Flowers. I don't love a wide receiver here. Tackle. It could go with Conerly out of Oregon, but this just feels too much like a Baltimore Ravens pick. Need a pass rush. The pass rush really let down this year. Jack Sawyer, very solid, fundamental guy out of Ohio State. I know they tend to lean towards Michigan guys in Baltimore, but Jack Sawyer, maybe not going to be the high-end defensive end that you're going to see, but he'll have his consistent production, and he'll have flashes where he can just win a football game a la the semifinal against Texas, blows up the right tackle, wins, forces the strip sack, and sends Ohio State on to the national championship, and they bring it home. So Jack Sawyer, great pick, very Ravens-esque pick here at 27. Lions here at 28. Interesting what the Lions are going to do. Critical offseason for them. Huge letdown in the playoffs. You lose both your coordinators. The defense was so banged up. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be back. But I think you need a running mate to go with Aiden Hutchinson. Give me Nick Scourton out of Texas A&M, a guy who maybe fell a bit with his production this year. He was going into the year as a top 10 potential guy, has the intangibles, didn't really show up too much on the tape. Not a dominant pass rusher, but was excellent in the run game this year. And that's going to help the Lions a lot. They're already really good on the run defense. So if you can kind of keep up that elite run defense and had 2 layers of pressure with them. Zadarius Smith, who knows what's going on with him? He could want to play for the Bears any moment now and just do the entire NFC North trade. So if you don't love any of the interior offensive linemen, if you're not able to re-sign some guys here, just go with a solid edge guy in Nick Scourton. Played at Purdue, had the 1 season at A&M. I think this is going to be a good pick for the Lions, and the Lions don't tend to miss very often with their draft picks. Okay, the surprise of the year, maybe the Washington Commanders and NFC Championship game berth in year 1 under new head coach Dan Quinn and rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. Could see another wide receiver here running with my man Scary Terry, but De'Ami Brown came on strong, almost led the postseason in receiving yards, just missed out to Xavier Worthy, who played the extra game. I guess he really didn't play the extra game. He had the first round bye. Anyways, I think this is a huge T. Higgins team potentially right here. Let's just get offensive linemen for my young quarterback. That's an area that could be upgraded. Give me Josh Conerly Jr. out of Oregon, a solid tackle guy. Mel Kiper, very, very high on him. Thinks he could potentially go even higher. Teams could fall in love with him. Solid all around. I think this is a good fit in Washington. And get me offensive linemen for my young quarterbacks. Need to give my guy time. Even when Jaden doesn't have it and he can take off, I think it's better to give him a comfortable pocket. Plus, really going to help out in the run game, which is what Cliff Kingsbury likes to lean on. Okay, the years of pain and sadness are never going to end, it feels like, for the Buffalo Bills, but nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen coming off an MVP, maybe a little bit of a letdown, but it's their defense year in and year out that can't do anything. They aren't really great at rushing the passer. They really couldn't stop. They were horrible against the run this year. Give me a big, huge load in the middle of that defensive line. Give me Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Going to be limited, not really going to get any pass rush out of him, but he is going to stop that interior runs. This Bills defense is not going to get gashed like they got gashed last year with a guy like Williams in the middle. So I think this is a really safe pick for them. And you're looking really hard at pick 30, back end of the first round. You want to have guys that are just maybe not like crazy high-end ceilings, but are going to do something really, really well. And if Williams is just an elite tier run stuffer in the middle of that defense, I'm going to be ecstatic if I'm a Bills fan. Please get this defense better if they are finally going to get over the hump and get themselves to a Super Bowl. Okay, Chiefs here in an interesting spot. No trades in this mock draft. I think this is a team that could potentially move up to get one of these offensive tackles in this draft. They need offensive line help, but defense is also an area of need. Defensive line, not great. Linebackers were horrible. Secondary was bad. I think there's some good options here. I could see Jahdae Barron out of Texas, but I think we're going to go with the best linebacker. Let's get Demetrius Knight out of South Carolina. They did a good job against Saquon in the run game, but I need a guy who's versatile. You can line him up on the outside. You can blitz him, get him after quarterbacks, and that's perfect for Steve Spagnuolo defense. We know about these crazy pass rushes and blitz schemes that they throw out there. I think this is a good fit for them overall. So I like this pick here for the Chiefs at 31. Okay, and finally, your Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. Could use another wide receiver. There could be some movement there. Maybe a third guy, potentially A.J. Brown. Who knows? He's never happy. Secondary was great. They did a great job with those young DBs. We see all these DBs up. Could easily see Howie and the Eagles trading back, picking up more picks to just move back up. But with the Eagles sitting here at 32, why not just keep adding, man? They could use some more pass rush. Let's go with Donovan Ezeiruaku. I butchered the shit out of that out of Boston College. Let's get us another pass rush for the Eagles. The rich get richer. Potentially some guys hitting the free agent market, and you could potentially lose that are going to have to get paid in Philadelphia. But ultimately felt like they were missing that elite tier pass rusher. Sweat's going to be a free agent. Milton Smith on the interior is also a free agent. So if you do end up losing those guys, let's just keep getting pass rush. I know the Eagles know how to draft defensive linemen, and defense definitely can win you championships. But that's going to do it for us today. Here's our official first mock draft of the 2025 offseason. Move the camera over here if you want to get that second look at everybody on the other side. So Really fun, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content for you guys. If you want to support the channel more, sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to cool and exclusive perks. Football season may be over, but the sports are still rolling out there. We got March Madness coming up, the NBA playoffs. Head on over to SeatGeek. When you use code AfterTheReview, SeatGeek.com, you get $20 off your first purchase. That's AfterTheReview at SeatGeek.com. $20 off your first purchase. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.